Hello, and welcome to Lit by Moonlight, where it's not a phase to find a cave full of bones carefully placed into piles like you're organizing your bedroom closet using the Marie Kondo method.
My favorite activity.
Me too.
To do. If it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. So as you might have guessed, this book and this episode has some trigger warnings, some content warnings for abuse, rape, violence, gaslighting, victim blaming, murder, and gore. So please take good care of yourself, and if any of those things are triggers for you, then this might not be the episode or book for you. So let's talk a little bit now about Near the Bone by Christina Henry. On top of a mountain, in the dead of winter, 20-year-old Maddie is living with a monster who abuses her, manipulates her, and forbids her from leaving the mountain. However, Maddie is having dreams that suggest there is more to her life that she doesn't quite remember. As Maddie starts to piece her life together from before and how she ended up on the mountaintop, she plans her escape from her abuser, but there's more than one monster creeping in the woods. So she's a lot to go. There's a lot going on for her right now.
She does not
catch
a break. My name is Caitlin, and a drive through the fall foliage may not fix all of my problems, but damn it
sure
does help.
It is a cure for the sorrow, for the horrors.
And the leaves this year are particularly very bright and beautiful. I may have gone for a drive the other day and screamed at the trees how beautiful they were.
Yeah.
Because that's a normal thing to do on a Friday.
Sure is, yeah. Hello, my name is Emberlin, and beep beep.
Ooh.
So Caitlin, what's your favorite cryptid?
I was just like processing them, like, oh, she's a robot.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Maybe.
Maybe
I'm a car. Maybe I'm a car honking. Maybe I'm just
like a road runner, like meep meep.
Yeah. That's up to the reader or the listener to interpret. Yeah.
Oh, keeps us on our toes. What's my favorite cryptid? Well, not too long ago, you introduced me to the Fresno Nightcrawler.
Yes.
And I have not been able to stop thinking about it.
She's special.
She's so special. If you don't know, the Fresno Nightcrawler, it's basically, to me, it looks like a little ghost with two legs. It's fantastic.
It's lovely.
Google it. I don't know. It's one of those where I'm just like, yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but I respect it.
Beats me. Just know I want to be its friend.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so cute. I remember when I first saw it was like a Factor fake Paranormal Files episode about it. I was like kind of terrified of it, but also like because I think I first saw that when I was like 10. But but then as an adult, I'm like, where do I get one?
Yeah,
I want to go to there. I want to be I want to go to there.
Yeah, and the thing is like someone captured it in one place, and then a completely different person captured it in a whole other other place. So I'm like, this is suspicious, and I like it. Like if I saw it in the woods and it was coming at me, would I run and scream and cry? Yeah, probably. But then after that, I'd want to be its friend.
Listen, as a true cryptid believer, I firmly believe it would be very difficult to like recreate the movements of that thing, like Precisely. With a puppet or what have you. That was what they did in the show, was they tried to debunk it and like recreate the movements, and it was really difficult for them to do. Yeah. And I just like firmly believe that, like, that little guy, he's probably out there somewhere, like chilling, vibing with his little buddies, and I like to believe that. Like, I'm not gonna debunk the Fresno Nightcrawler.
Yeah, no, I love him.
Yeah, he's my favorite as well. I think, like, it's so cute. I also have a special place in my heart for the jackalope. I think they do exist. Like, if you don't know what the jackalope is, it's the little bunny that has the antlers. My mom used to have like a picture book about the jackalope that she'd read to me when I was a kid. Like every good parent who raises their children on cryptids does. Correct. So, and then like, of course, I feel like I have to mention Mothman.
Oh, like, yeah. How do you know?
Mothman is special. Like I think I took like a cryptid quiz, like a month ago, where I got Mothman, and I was like, yeah, you better believe I'm Mothman. Like,
nice. I think I took that same quiz and I got the moon.
The moon. I got the moon on one the other day, and I was like, hell yeah.
And I was like, didn't know she was a cryptid, but I'm here for it.
The moon is a cryptid. The moon is the cryptid. Like she's a well-known cryptid. We all see her, but she's a cryptid all the same, I think.
It was interesting. Like, I was not upset about the results, but I was like, I was expecting like Mothman or something. But
I think we should make a podcast that's like the Cryptid Factor 2.0. If not, because we both love cryptids, at least so we can get Restarby to notice us by suing us for copyright infringement. So
listen, I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, this book was a whirlwind. Was there a specific moment that hooked you?
Honestly, I was hooked straight from the get-go. On top of the already weird stuff with a mysterious bear that's not a bear being hinted at, like, from the first line, we find out that Maddie has memories that she's told aren't real. Like, at first I thought, I'm like, oh, it's like a dream of hers. I'm like, this is interesting, because I thought you told me that there was something with cryptids in this book, so I was like, oh, maybe it's all supernatural and everything. I'm like, oh, and she has dreams of something, I don't know. So I was just trying to piece together like what that was like within like the first couple pages, and then so she's having those memories, and she's told that they're not real and that she shouldn't think about it, and she's told that by a man named William. We don't know exactly yet, but then immediately she says William told her what to think, and she was sure he wouldn't like her thinking on the dead fox. And I was like, I need to know more. Like, where are they? Why is she with William? Who is he? Also, what year is it? I had no idea what year it was. I did no research on this book. I was just like, I'm just going to go into it blind, not knowing anything about it. And I was like, when was this book written? And apparently it was only last year.
Yeah.
So, which is cool. And I was like, who's Heather? What are these dreams? Are they real? And the more information we learn, the more she remembers of her life. I could not put the book down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really like, I feel like this book is such a page turner from like start to finish, because I feel like Henry does a really great job of weaving like all of these different plot points that are like mysteries. And you spend the whole book trying to figure out what's what. Like, yeah. In the first couple of chapters, when you first start to recognize signs that Maddie, or like Samantha, which is her actual name, is an abduction victim, you're hooked because you want so badly to know what like happened to her, and like who's Heather, and where is she, and is her mother alive, and like how did she end up here, and who was William to her that he was able to abduct her. Right. Like, those are the parts that I found myself focusing on the most in the book. And then I feel like the Beast was cool, but also secondary, because I was just so immersed in Maddie's backstory. That's what hooked me, too.
When a book can grab you like that immediately, I feel like it's a good one. It's a good one. So did you have a favorite quote from the book?
I had a couple, but I'll start with the most prominent, which is that, like, the very, very end. And I feel weird saying that I always do this. I'm always like, the last line of the book is my favorite. But that's often because it's always the best. Like, if you ever read, like, I don't know, like Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Play, Love, Evertissimo, Let's Cross Over. Whenever I read that, I'm like, ugh, you know.
Song of Achilles.
Yeah, Song of Achilles. Oh my God. I just read this book by Anne Patchett called The Dutch House, which ends kind of in, like, sometimes I feel like whenever I hit the end of a book, it's like I don't cry the entire book, but then when I hit the last lines, just depending on what they are, I always end up crying.
Yeah, because it kind of like, when there's a last line that can encompass like the entire book in like a way where it's like its end, but it's like a good end, and it's just like it's a really good conclusion. Yes. You feel content. Right. That's how this one was. Yeah.
It was like that. So when Maddie, or Samantha, when she finally makes it down to where the police are off the mountain, when she walks in to get help for CP, and when the cop asks her name, she says, Samantha, my name is Samantha. Ugh. I remember where I was listening to the audiobook, I was walking around my apartment, and I just like collapsed on the floor and started crying. I don't know why. I wasn't expecting it. Like, I wasn't expecting the whole book. I was like, just like, oh, you know, like, but I wasn't super moved. But at the very end, I was like, oh my God, she went through so much. Look at her. She made it. Like, she reclaimed her identity. She is Samantha. She spent the whole book debating that, and here she is. She is Samantha. Like,
yeah. And I think it's so emotional because you spend the entire book being like, you're on the edge the entire time. You're like, because you just want her to get away, and you want her to be able to live her life and get off this damn mountain and find her sister. And so when she finally says, because she knows her name's Samantha, but she never says it out loud herself, so like just having her saying my name is Samantha, it's just like, oh, she did it. It's like relief.
Her name is Samantha. Yeah hit me. And then I can't think of a specific line, but just to call, and I think you were able to capture this, Caitlin. So I'll let you talk about it more. But just anything where she was able to have an experience that we take for granted, and just live through that really got to me. So
yeah, so my first favorite quote to go off of that was, Maddie didn't know how to explain to CP that she was crying because the sandwich reminded her of her mother and of a home, and William had made certain she would never have her mother or her home again. It's just, like you said, like the things we take for granted that we can have every day. Like CP makes a grilled cheese sandwich for her, something that anyone can do if you want to, but she never got to. It was just the act of, she also said that no one's ever made anything for her in like 12 years, because she's always had to be the one to do it, and even when she gets food, it's not always the right proportion or nice. It's literally just
food.
A piece of bread sometimes.
Something incredibly simple.
So and it was just nice to see like Maddie slowly see these parts of the world that she was taken from, and to be loved like that in a way, and like just like the three, like Jen and Griffin and CP, like calling her by her name was just a lot, I feel like. And so for her to be able to like feel this love from someone who's doing this for her, and like to like remind her of home, and it just really got me.
You know. So, I love what you did. I just read your line. Did you have any other quotes before I go forward?
Good. Just one more that I really stood out to me was Maddie says in reference to CP, she said, he thinks there should be a happy ending just because he believes in one, and it just made me so sad. And I literally put in my notes, I'm like, well, I want this to be a happy ending, so I believe in it. Like, I really want this, because you know, all these horrible things are happening to them, and none of them seem to catch a break. If there's a theme to this book, it's no one catches a break, like, at all. And like Samantha keeps going like, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to get the hell out of here. And then just like knowing how bad like this world that she's living in is, and how bad William is, and these monsters, and she's like, we just need to get out. And CP's just like, okay, but everything's gonna be fine. So that's how I see this entire story going. Everything's gonna be fine. We got a cool cryptid. My friends are gonna live. And narrator voice, everything was not fine.
I love the distinction between like Maddie's just her experience, her loss of innocence, and CP's blind optimism. To where she was like, no, you don't understand, this is how shit is, like life's hard. And he's over there like, we'll figure it out. Like, you know, it's so interesting to me. Like they were my favorite foils in this book, because like every time that she was like, no, like, well, he was like, well, you know, like, which is like such a guy thing to do. It reminds me of like, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm always the type of person in situations where I'm like, oh my god, I'm stuck up here, nothing's gonna be okay, it's all gonna be sad. And then my partner's like, no, I won't be all fine, everything's fine, you know? And I'm always just like, no. So I just love that. That was like really funny. So did you have like a favorite, like, what's a song? Yeah, let's do that.
What's a song?
What's a song? Hey, Caitlin, what's a song? You're the music major here, so music business, not music, but still music.
Close enough.
So the music industry, the music economy, the economy of music.
Keep going.
The music industrial complex.
Yeah. You got
it. Yay! So is there a song you would play as you run away from a cryptid?
I said Goodbye Earl from the Chicks, because if you don't know, that song is about two best friends, one of them who was abused, and then the other friend coming to her friend's aid, and then they kill her abuser. And I just think that's neat.
Yes. Like, oh, yes. Goodbye, Earl.
It's such a good song. Oh my god. Fun fact about this song, I knew all of the lyrics to the song at 3 years old.
As you should. It's a good mantra for life. Like,
it is.
Just
I grew up on their music, and then I saw them in concert this summer, and they ended with Goodbye Earl, and I was like, everything has come full circle.
Yes. It's like one of those roll credit moments where you're like, this is a callback.
And for those of you at home, this is a callback. What would you play as you run away from a cryptid?
So I chose What's a Girl to Do by Bat for Lashes. because it's so spooky. Like it's on my Halloween playlist. I recommend it. I can't remember I can't remember the origin of it. I think I either heard it from one of my very close friends from high school, Bella, who I love, and I haven't talked to them in a long time. So if you're out there, I love you and I miss you. Either I got it from them or I think I might have heard it in Scream Queens. I don't know if you ever saw Scream Queens, but it was like kind of like,
I didn't know.
It's a great show. It only lasted 2 or 3 seasons, but it's like an ode to horror. And the queen of horror herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, is in it, and so many other notable people from the horror genre are in it, and it's like weirdly good. Like it's like campy, but it's really good. Like I really recommend it.
But like in a fun, good way. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know who they paid to read Leah Michelle her lines for that specific show, but she did great too. So,
all right, well, good for her.
Yeah. But do listen to that song. It's a great like running and looking behind you song. So character. What's a Caitlin you would make a grilled cheese for?
We're killing it today.
I'm just so good. I think I have like really bad allergies ever since I got home because I think my body's not used to there being trees and leaves and grass again.
Yeah.
Since I've been in the city for like a year now. And
welcome to seasons.
Yeah, welcome to seasons. And like, and it's just like I woke up and I was like, and my whole brain just feels so heavy. So if I say anything weird in this episode, you know why.
You know why. You got here just as we're really starting to be consistently cold now. So.
Yes. And I also got here during like the peak of autumn, which was like great. My mom told me that earlier this week. She goes, guess what? You're going to be here during the peak of the leaves. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I got here and I was like, oh, it's so pretty. Like,
it's
anyway.
Peak season, baby. It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. So, is there a character, Caitlin, that you would make a grilled cheese for?
Yeah, I would make a grilled cheese for Griffin because he was the first one to come up on the mountain by himself and see Maddie and William, and he immediately knew something was up with Maddie the first time he saw her, and was like even asking her like, are you okay? And then of course William intervenes and like butts in and everything, but Griffin didn't let that go because he's also up there because he's searching for cryptids, as you do.
Yeah.
But because he sees Maddie, he comes back to not only continue his cryptozoology trip with his friends, but also check in on her and make sure she's okay. Because then we learn from CP like that Griffin did not stop talking about Maddie or Samantha and like how we have to go back and like make sure she's okay. And I just respect him so much for it that he noticed something was up and he's like, I'm gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
And he did. And he deserves so much better.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it not knowing. So like Griffin ultimately, if you've read the book or if you want to know more, ends up being one of the monster's victims. And it's sad because it's like, this is definitely one of those books. Like sometimes you encounter a piece of media where you're like, oh, like this is an ethical, very like only the bad people die type of piece of media. Where like, it's like, oh, somebody, but then in a lot of horror, that's never the case. It's like, you're going to die no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. It's like a Mike Flanagan show. It's like, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're dead. It doesn't matter how beloved you are, you're dead,
You're done.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny too, now that you say that, like, the two people who were the nicest to Maddie, I mean, CP had his moments too, but he was still, like, a little, like, rough sometimes.
Yeah.
But, like, Griffin was so nice to her all the time, and then Jen was so sweet with her. Yeah. Always, like, calling her by her name and being very aware of her situation and being sensitive to that. Yeah. And then both of them... Spoilers. Dead. This is a spoiler-ridden podcast. Who cares? Yeah. Like, they're gone. Yeah. Horrible. They're gone. There was, like, part of me was like, okay, so because Griffin gets taken away while he's unconscious because he has this whole concussion from fighting William. I think he got beat over the head with a shovel because William's a piece of shit. Yeah. And so he's unconscious. He gets taken away from them. And still part of me is just like, they'll find him and everything's going to be okay. It's going to be one of those stories where, like, a lot of conflict happens, but they all are okay in the end. And boy, howdy, was I wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Christina Henry said, no.
She
no,
said,
no.
Not today.
I don't like that.
So what character would you make a grilled cheese for?
The monster. I love a cryptid. This guy, he just exudes main character energy, like organizing his bones, hanging organs from trees, chilling and vibing with the baby that they had. It's LGBT icon, LGBTQ icon, queer icon. Like when the moment they mentioned them organizing bones, I was like, that's a gay monster. He's gay. That's gay. That's gay. That's what.
I love how organized they were. It's great.
Yeah. I love the monster. And until the very end, I mentioned like a bear or something, but at the very end, like something happened to me where when she's looking into the trees and she sees the monster, in my brain he turned into Torto from My Neighbor Totoro. So like Totoro, not Torto. But
I can't correct you. I don't know how it's pronounced.
But honestly, it made me laugh so hard because, like, at the very end, when she's looking at the trees, all I could imagine was just Totoro just sitting there. And if you've ever seen that movie, then you'll know that's hilarious. Like, because that's not. Can you imagine Totoro hanging organs from trees? Like, that'd be wild. But
I love that.
Yeah, love the monster. Is there a character you would capture in a poisoned bear trap, even though we all know it's William? Yeah.
Yeah, man, fuck that guy. He sucks.
Bad man.
Yeah, he was canonically the worst.
Yeah,
ever.
bad.
I don't like that he kidnapped her. Not a big fan of that.
No.
Wasn't a big fan of how he was using religion to justify his ways.
Mm-hmm.
Did not like that.
Yeah.
Took all the wrong interpretations. Did not like his existence. What I did like about him was when he died.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
That was a great part.
I feel like what made me hate him even more is a lot of what happens to Maddie in the story is like not dissimilar to what happened to Elizabeth Smart in real life. And so just kind of being able to put like characteristically kind of like put a face in the real world to like the actions and behaviors of someone like this made me more aggravated like the whole time, because these are all things that could actually happen. And I think I talk about this a little later, but I feel like Henry does a great job of of portraying what it's like to live with somebody who's an abuser, because you're consistently anticipating your needs, you're always on your toes, you don't know when they're gonna strike next, you know. And I just like felt that the entire book I was on edge, because I was just like, what's this guy gonna do next, you know?
Yeah.
And like there are like he's not like, I don't want to be I don't mean to be cynical, but like there are so many people in the world like him that reading it I was just like, oh my god, like girl, been there, like, so him. Terrifying. But then I will say, and this is probably not an unpopular opinion, but like there were times in the book when I wanted to take CP out, like for real. Like I knew he was just he was a bit ignorant about the situation. Contextually, he's like a college kid, you know, like up alone on this mountain with this girl. But like there were just so many times when explicitly with CP, when it just felt like he would question her to the extent that like victim blaming, I think kind of, you'll see that a lot in the real world where you're asking questions like, well, why didn't you run? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? And it's like, I understand like why people sometimes ask those questions without like having the context of like what it means to be like with an abuser, but like there are a lot of times when I was like, sir, read the room.
Right. And like even reading the book, there are times where I'm just like, there was a part in the book where she was left outside and to get back to the cabin on her own in the middle of the night in the winter, and part of me, and even like there's a part of her going, this is your chance to run, and part of me is like, oh my god, why isn't she going? But then you gotta, like, that's your immediate thought, but then you really think about it and you go, well, because she was told by her abuser that if she goes into town, they're just gonna return her back to him. Like he made her believe that like no matter what she did, she would always come back there. And also just the current situations of like, could she even survive a trip back down by herself? And she's also was not in a physical state to be able to do that. So it's just when your life's on the line, these are hard questions to answer.
Yeah. One critique I saw of this book was like, well, William's just confusing because, like, sometimes he wants her to stay inside. He doesn't want to go anywhere. But then, like, he left her out there in the woods, like, when she could have very, very obviously ran. And I was just like, no. Like, you gotta understand, like, that's how abusers work. Like, he knew she was going to come back to the cabin. Like, he knew she wasn't going anywhere. That's why he left her out there. Like, she was already impaired, like, unable to go anywhere. And, like, he knew that. So, of course, he left her there because he knew she'd be back. Like, he wasn't worried about losing her in that moment. But, yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
All right. We're on to our peaks and valleys. What was your first peak for Near the Bone?
This kind of goes along with the way that Henry captures abuse, but I think she just does a spectacular job of like creating and portraying Maddie's voice. Mm-hmm. Like, if you've been kept away from society and have never experienced the things that we take for granted, like grilled cheese and little coffee cakes and friendship with others, you have all of these questions, and every little new experience you have feels so big. And I just felt like when Henry sat down to write this, she asked herself over and over again, like, what does it feel like to experience grilled cheese for the first time, or something like that. Yeah. And I felt like she captured that so well. And there were times, another critique I saw of this book, because I was in deep on the Goodreads ratings, was like, oh, well, I just don't like how simplistic the writing is. I don't like how simplistic Henry writes. Well, she's writing from the perception. First of all, no. But she's writing from the perspective of a 20-year-old woman who was never taught to read or write beyond, like, a little bit of schooling after she was abducted. Yeah, who was abducted and, like, is probably, as with most abduction victims, like, kind of premature, like, in her ability to write and read and speak and think, not think, but, and, like, I just felt like that was why Henry wrote her that way, to be kind of to be kind of not childish, but just sound very innocent and soft and meek for a lot of the book. And I just felt like that was why, and I was so confused about why people thought that the writing was simplistic or, like, childlike. It's like, yeah,
I feel like that's the point. Like, you're reading it and you're like, oh my god, she's just a baby.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She is, like, mentally
is.
She is, because she never got to live her childhood.
Exactly.
So of course she's gonna sound like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the story with, like, the Turpin family from, like, a few years ago, where basically it was these two parents who were horribly, like, abusing and mistreating their, like, 15 children. And one of the girls escaped, and she's talking to the officer, and she's never been outside on her own before or talking to another person that's not in her family before. And she sounds like she's, like, 12, but she's 17 years old. And it's just it speaks to how being treated like that can really mess with you mentally. And I feel like Christina Henry was able to capture that in her writing. Yes. And it's sad and it's terrible, but it's unfortunately a realistic trait.
Right. Like, CP keeps using the word whatever in the book.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's whatever? Like, she doesn't know what that word is. And I remember in the Turpin video, like, it was the same thing. Like, the officer used a word that
medication.
She was like, yeah, medication.
What's medication?
Like, what is medication? And that's, like, really sad, because, like, that's how this girl's living in the book, is, like, completely cut off from society. And I feel like Henry does such a great job of capturing what that would be like. What was your first peak?
My first peak was the Cryptids.
Yeah!
I love Cryptids!
Cryptids!
Avid listener of the Cryptid Factor, if I have never mentioned this on the podcast before.
We'll link it, yeah.
We'll link it. If you like Cryptids, this is a podcast for you. It's so fun. It's hilarious, but it's also just full of cryptid news, and it's great. 10 out of 10 recommend. This is an endorsement. But yeah, the Cryptids. I thought it was so, like, it's already a terrible situation to be, kidnapped and being abused by your kidnapper on top of a mountain away from society. But then you add cryptids to that?
Yeah.
like you so badly are rooting for Maddie to get the hell away from William, and no matter how far she gets from him, they literally still have cryptids chasing after them and killing her friends. Like, there is no escape. They cannot get out.
Yeah, we gotta get out, mama.
So, and I also just think the cryptid itself was super interesting.
Yeah.
Because at first, reading it, because you don't know exactly, like, what's going on with this. So Maddie keeps equating it to, like, a bear, but, like, a really big bear. So,
Yeah.
like, we know it's not a bear, but that's the best thing that she can think of. Because she can only, she doesn't see it often, but she senses how big it is and what it can do. And then we see, early on in the cave, that it's organizing all the bones and also has all of the guts and innards of its victims.
Icon.
So, yeah. So, I thought that was just really interesting. Like, ooh, why is it doing that? But then also, in the beginning, I wasn't sure. I was like, is this cryptid protecting Maddie? Possibly?
Yeah.
Because it stalks her through the night when she's left out on her own. But I'm like, maybe it's there to protect her. And maybe it eventually will get William or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, oh, maybe there's, like, more to this cryptid, like, I guess symbolically in a way.
Yeah, I thought that way too.
So like, that was really cool. But then just the whole imagery, and it's terrible, horrible, and awful, but the whole imagery of the cryptid stringing up the victims in the trees like Christmas ornaments was horrifying.
Crazy.
Like, it was it's just a quirky little cryptid.
Quirky.
It's just decorating for the holiday season.
He's like Jonathan Van Ness up in there, like, we really thought that you needed to add a little something to your living space, so we've strung organs up in the trees. We know you said you love Christmas, so
you seem to really like your friend Griffin, so we put him on the tree.
Like Cryptid Queer Eye. Hi, welcome back to Cryptid Queer Eye. I'm Mothman, and today we're going to be making over this woman's house with millions and millions of little moth egg sacs. She's gonna love it. She's gonna love it.
Cryptid Queer Eye. Oh my god.
What is it? The Fresno Nightcrawler is like the one that's all about, like, he's like the one of the group that's all about, like, helping you build your character. He, like, teaches you how to strut.
You just gotta strut.
Just look high, walk with your shoulders
confidence.
stopped, neck high, chin high, and strut.
Oh my god.
Elusively through the forest.
I love
Guys,
cryptids.
someone please make Cryptid Queer Eye for
me. Draw it, write it, do anything. Yeah, so that was I think that my second peak is the Cryptid Queer Eye, actually. Decided. What was your second peak?
My second peak was the psychological elements of this book, because they were just so jarring and well written. And as I said earlier, I kind of found myself trying to anticipate William's needs and actions along with Maddie throughout the book. And I feel like that's just such a accurate depiction of, like, a person's dynamic with their abuser. Is just, you're consistently kind of like, what are they gonna do now? Like, what are they gonna say? And it's like, you know what's coming, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
So that really, I feel like I was just really, like, in deep on those, and that's what kept me turning the pages every single like literally, I think I read the book in a day, just because I wanted to see William die so bad. And I think, like, as an addition to that peak, I think it's great that Maddie got to be the one to end him. Like, it could have been the Beast. Like, the Beast kind of, like, you know, impeded his abilities, but at the end of the day, it was her that got to push him and let him go. And I think that that's, like, great. Like, just such a great example of, like, taking back the narrative from your abuser. Which is, like, I feel like, in contrast to, like, Ninth House last week, where I just kind of felt like it, like, every single person who experienced abuse, it's like it was centered on the main character in a way that wasn't super, like it seemed like all the abuse was they were like plot devices for the main character to, like, improve their situation. This week I felt like it was great that the person who's a victim got to take back that narrative and take William out herself. So that was mine.
Yeah, I like too that because Maddie was like, okay, even if the creature did take him out, like, she doesn't know for sure. And so unless you get that, like, solid proof, then she's always gonna like have William like lurking in the back of her mind of being like if he's still out there. So I'm glad that she was able to, one, kill him herself, and two, see the proof that yes, he's gone, he's forever, like he's done.
She was able to give him that finality and herself that finality, and I just like
it was so good.
Bark,
Woof woof, bark bark.
Meow.
My second peak was just being able to piece together literally everything. That's like what we've both been talking about. Like that was what kept me turning the pages. Like I needed to know what happened so bad. I didn't read anything about this book beforehand. I didn't look up the summary or look up what the book was about. We have a friend from high school, Nova. Shout out to Nova. God bless you for this book. It's so good. I asked them what their favorite horror novel was, considering that's all I ever see them read, and I trust them. And they did not let me down because this book was insane, and I liked being in the dark about everything with Maddie, because I feel like sometimes if I know more than the narrator, it doesn't always work, or I'm just like, oh well, they'll find this out eventually, or it just bothers me. So like I love puzzles, so I like being able to piece things out like myself and try and put it together. I love guessing, then like who's Heather, like is it like at first I thought it was like her girlfriend or something, and then you find out it was her sister, and then just trying to figure out like where all these memories are coming from, or like are they actually dreams, like what happened. And then I didn't know what year the book took place for the longest time, which I thought was interesting because it just shows you how isolated William made Maddie feel and live. Like they live in, like they have no electricity, their bathroom is an outhouse, like they have like she has to be wearing like these like wool skirts, and there's no technology, like all these things. And so I'm just like, what? And like just the way that William speaks, it's so horribly outdated and terrible. So I'm like, what? I was like, what year is it? Like what's going on? And then you find out it's like today's year. Like this book was written last year, and you know, the her friends that she meets along the way, like they have cell phones and all of this stuff. So like it takes place now, but it just shows how far removed she was from civilization. So when she first had the memory of her Christmas stocking and what with her real name Samantha on it, I gasped. I was like, oh my god. I'm like, who is she? What happened to her? And I didn't want to put the book down because I feel like this book was so immersive, where it was like I was watching a movie, and if I had to put the book down, I felt like I was abandoning her in the woods. I'm like, I can't leave my girl. Like she's got to escape. Like I have to keep reading.
Can't leave my girl out here.
I know she gets out. And but it was also like sometimes like I would read so much, I'm like, okay, today I had to put this. Like I read it in 2 days, but like the first day I was like, this is a lot. And I just need to like
a lot of big feelings,
and a lot of heavy topics. I'm just like, okay, time to go scroll on TikTok and lose some more brain cells real quick.
Time to go and like be
and just have something light and a little funny to listen to. But it was just the learning all of this information and just like seeing her remember things, and then eventually you get this voice of Samantha that is like talking to her, that she calls her Samantha voice, of her like trying to take it back. So I loved both of the just seeing her like internal struggle of that, of like she's stuck as Maddie, but she wants to reclaim Samantha, but she can't quite trust Samantha yet because she doesn't know what else to do. And it's just really good. It's such a quick read. It's so good.
Worth it. And I think I don't know if it's self-published, but I do think it's at least independently published. So I feel like that's like really impressive. That I feel like this person, like I feel like Christina Henry deserves like all the praise for her work. Like because I feel like this book is better than like half the stuff I've read that's been published by like one of the big publishers recently.
No, I completely agree. So did you have a valley for this book?
This is a me thing. Because like it was part of the book and it made sense and it was like plot relevant, but I was so pissed at everyone on the mountain when Maddie like would suggest any intelligent like effort to leave. And they'd all be like, well no, we gotta get this first, we gotta get the cryptid, we gotta get a picture of the cryptid first. It's like, no, you don't need to get. I think if it was just the cryptid up there, maybe. But there's also a man up there with a gun who's, like, super abusive.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe
Yeah.
leave, question mark? Like, it just bothered me how, I mean, like, I understand, listen, as somebody who loves cryptids, I understand. But also, like, you gotta prioritize your own safety and the well-being of this person that's, like, just been
Yeah.
abducted and, like, kept in.
That's what was killing me.
I was like, y'all need to not prioritize your cryptids right now. Like,
It was, like, not just the fact that they went back to the cabin.
yeah.
Like, because, like, at first, they were all pretty much safe, except for Griffin. He was taken. But, like, they were all pretty much safe, and if they just, like, maybe camped out for the night there, and then they just left and just kept going down the mountain, like, I think they would have made it. They could have done it.
Yeah.
But then, at the end, when CP was like, nah, I gotta go back for Griffin's backpack. Like, we gotta do that.
Like, you sure
Like,
don't.
like, part of me was like, I get it. You just lost 2 of your best friends, and you want that proof. But also, this girl has been stuck on this mountain for 12 years.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Yeah. I kept thinking, like, I don't know what I'd do in this situation, but I gotta feel like it's not that. I feel like I'd be like, oh my god, you look awful. Let's get out of here. Like, let's leave. Like
we're leaving right
not
now.
staying on this mountain. Yeah.
Oh my god.
What was yours? What was your valley?
Another me thing. Because if I had to have a valley, I feel like it would be that the book ended before we got to see Samantha reunite with Heather.
Yeah.
Because I love reunions so much in real life, in books, in shows, and movies. They make me cry every time. I love it so much. And I just had my love for heartfelt reunions, really wanted to see Samantha reunite with her sister because you hear so much about her, especially after you find out that her mom was killed by William.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, please just give her sister back.
Yeah.
I just needed to see them reunite. And then for some reason I thought there was 19 chapters in this story. So I was like, oh, I have one more after this. But then like I got to like, Samantha, my name is Samantha. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I went to the next page and then it was like about the author. And I was like, wait, no!
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So I was hoping for a little something, but I didn't need it because honestly, that last line was so powerful. It nearly made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I get that. Yeah. So Caitlin, on a scale of 1 to 5, how many Fresno Nightcrawlers would you give Near the Bone?
I gave Near the Bone 5 out of 5 Fresno Nightcrawlers. Holy fuck, this book was so good.
Yeah, it was good.
I loved it so much. I literally like. It wasn't even just the fact that like I couldn't put it down. It was just because you get so invested in these characters and just like, oh, you want them to escape so bad. And then also there's cryptids, which is really cool. But also they're kind of doing not cool things to the people that you're rooting for.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. It was really good. How about you? What did you rate it?
Yeah, I gave this book 4 out of 5 Fresno Nightcrawlers. It was just like really, really good. I think it was better than like a lot, as I said before, it was a lot better than a lot of like the big name published books that I've been reading recently. I just thought it was like, I feel like Christina Henry is so talented and I cannot thank Nova enough for recommending this book because it's like, it's just really good. Like,
it is.
You should read it.
Really is.
It was excellent.
Yeah, this is my favorite book of Spooktacular October.
Yeah, Spectacular October. So thank you for listening to the By Moonlight during Spectacular October, and tune in next week when we return to the fantasy genre with Lee Bardugo's Siege and Storm.
Woohoo!
Yes!
Going back to our roots with fantasy.